Okay, shalom everybody. So today we are continuing a series on Jerusalem, and it's going to be the conquest of the city of David, which is my favorite topic, which is the place I like the most to guide. And I was really blessed by the Lord because He gave me some insights on this that I really cherish. So I want to share it with you. It's going to be in two parts because it's a long class. And the best part will be the next time. So keep tuned, and we will try to embark in a special journey to the city of David, where everything began. It all began in the city of David. So first of all, let me share a screen with you of this beautiful image taken from the book of Eyal Meron on the city of David. Okay, you got it here. Beautiful colors and so. And let's start. Okay, this is going to be the for the moment, this, and then we'll go on. So the city of David, as you can see, it's a fortress. Okay, I mean, it's a fortified city. And there was also mentioned in the Bible, there was a fortress, and it became the city of David, and so on and so forth. So in order to understand what happened in the conquest, which is quite mysterious, we need to read the stories according to 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles. So in 2 Samuel, it says, so let me, maybe I'm going to share with you the text so like this, you can read with me. Yes. Okay. So, and the king went, so this is in Samuel, and the other column is about Chronicles. And the king went with his men to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land. And they said unto David, thou shalt not come in either, for the blind and the lame shall cast thee off. So translation is not the modern translation, but I guess you get it, which means David shall not come in here. And David took the stronghold of Zion, which is the city of David. And David said in that day, whoever smites the Jebusites and comes to the channel and smite the lame and the blind, which are the enemies of David, therefore it is said, the blind and the lame shall not enter into the house. And David dwelt in the stronghold and called it the city of David. He built buildings on all sides, outside and inside Millo. And in Chronicles, we have quite the same story, but the book was written much, much later, at the coming back of the exile of Babylon, and it's a totally different book, and we'll have the opportunity to study it one day also. So 1 Chronicles say, and David went with all Israel unto Jerusalem, and they were the Jebusite inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Jebus said unto David, you shall not come in either, but David took the stronghold of Zion, which is the city of David. And David said, whoever first smiteth the Jebusite shall be prince and ruler. And Joab ben Zeruiah went up first and became prince. And David dwelt in the stronghold. Therefore it was called the city of David. And he built around the city from Millo and round about, and Joab repaired the rest of the city. So each source emphasizes certain points. But we can see how the two complement each other, and the common elements are the following. The refusal on the part of the Jebusite, Yevusi in Hebrew, the inhabitants of the city to let David enter. The conquest of the fortress of Zion and its transformation into the city of David. They agree on both this. The promise of a prize to the one who will strike the Jebusite, and the new construction of the city. The differences are in Shmuel, we have the king and his men, while in Divrei Hayamim, which is Chronicles, Divrei Hayamim, the words of the days, Divrei Hayamim, Chronicles, we have David and all Israel. The aqueduct, the blind and the lame are mentioned only in the book of Shmuel, and Joab's role in the conquest of the city is mentioned only in the book of Chronicles. Okay, so that's to start. So as mentioned, Shmuel, the book of Shmuel, Samuel speaks of the king and his men, whereas in Chronicles, all Israel came to the city. So there is a biblical commentator, David Kimchi, a rabbi from the 13th century. he reconciles the issues as follows. And he says, and the king and his men went. And in Chronicles, it says, and David and all Israel went. Because all Israel were now his men. Logical, because he was elected by all the men. I send you back to the class on Hebron and also on the Gihon River. Because they had a tradition, since he ruled over all Israel, he went to Jerusalem to take the fortress of Zion, because they had a tradition that Zion will be the beginning of the kingdom of Israel, and that it could only be taken by someone who was king over all Israel. And until that day, there was no lasting kingdom in Israel, because the kingdom of Shaul, King Saul, was not lasting. Okay, so according to this explanation, Jerusalem was taken by all of Israel, because once David became king over them, they were called his men, in contrast to Samuel, where David's men were only mentioned. So it is also important to make another clarification about the book of Chronicles, because it was written, as I say, in the 5th century BC, so after the exile of Babylon, destruction of the first temple, and it's considered one of the last books of the Hebrew Bible, and it gives, obviously, the author of the Chronicles had access to most of the earlier books of the Bible, including Samuel, Shmuel, and Kings, from which it takes all its content. But the approach is different in different fact, because there are many stories that are not mentioned in the book of Chronicles, like, for instance, the Exodus, the history with Bathsheba, the split with the kingdom of Judah, the kingdom of Israel, the exiles of certain tribes, and so on. So the vision of the book of Chronicles is rather giving us a messianic vision that is only mentioning the good part and the unification of the whole people. But this will be for another class. So let's return to the term all of Israel. This is paramount in the book of Chronicles, and it has different meanings, but it characterized the people as a whole, which is the vision of the book of Chronicles. David ruled over all Israel, and he did justice and righteousness to all his people. Its frequent use in the book of Chronicles, although the meaning does not differ from the text of Kings, but it amplifies the unity, so which is something very dear to the book of Chronicles. And in the reign of David, the idea is accentuated. 1 Chronicle 11:10 says, these are the chiefs of the mighty men who served David, who helped him with all Israel to secure his dominion in order to make him king according to the word of the Lord concerning Israel. And these men of war, ready to fight, came to Hebron in sincerity of heart to establish David king over all Israel. And David gathered all Israel together from Egypt, from the entrance of Hamath, and so on and so forth. You see, so this is really something very important in the book of Chronicles, and it's important for the rest of our message. So now let's mention the other funny special thing about the blind and the lame, who would be the enemies of David. So David and his men, David and all Israel, encounter this mysterious element in the conquest of Jebus, which was Jerusalem, the city of David. The Jebusites, they were Canaanites, first of all, according to Genesis 10:15, and they were not willing to give up the city to him or let him enter. He say, whoever defeats the Jebusites and reaches the canal or the channel, whoever strikes the lames and the blind, who are David's enemies. Therefore, they say, the blind and the lame shall not enter the house. So who are those lames and those blinds? So there are several interpretations. Rashi says they are idols. So, okay. The Radak says that cites Ibn Ezra, position that the Metsudah, which is the fortress, was so strong that the Jebusites taunted David that even blinds and lame couldn't enter it, could defend it. Even if they were they had infirmity, they could still defend it because it was very strong. Even if it is only the blind and the lame who turn to fight against you, that will prevent you from entering, for the Metsuda, the fortress, is extremely strong, and we are not afraid to fight against you. Then Flavius Josephus, who was the historian of the Second Temple, offers a similar explanation. He says, however, the inhabitants of the city, the Jebusites, who were descended from the Canaanites, closed the gates before him and posted on the wall people with defective eyes and legs and other deformities in order to mock the king, saying that deformed people would prevent him from entering the city. They did this to try because of their confidence in the strength of their walls. Okay, same interpretation. The Radak, another biblical commentary, continues, who are hated by the soul of David, because they humiliated him with them, saying that they will prevent him for capturing the fortress. Therefore, the word, because from that day on, no blind or lame person would enter this house, namely the fortress of Zion, to shame these blind and lame people, and as a memorial for the future generations, how David had captured it. Okay, now we have something else in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, who is quoting a midrash that this would also refer to the vow that Abraham made with Ephron when he purchased also the cave of Machpelah. And Abraham ran to fetch a calf, and the calf fled from him and entered the cave of Machpelah. It's in Hebron, the cave of the patriarch, the burial tomb. And he entered after him. Then he found Adam and Chava laying on their bunk, sleeping, with candles burning around them and a sweet smell above them. He therefore desired the cave of Machpelah as his burial place. He told the Jebusite that he wished to buy the cave of Machpelah at a good price for gold, and with a perpetual deed as a burial place. Were they Jebusite? Surely they were Hittites. It is rather because of the name of the city Jebus that they are called Jebusite. The people did not accept the deal. Abraham began to kneel and bow down today, as it says, and Abraham bowed down to the people of the land in Genesis 23:12, talking about Ephron. He made the deal with him. They say to him, we know that the Holy One, blessed be he, will eventually give you and your descendants all this land. Swear to us that Israel will not take possession of the city of Jebus without the consent of the Jebusite. Then he bought the cave of Machpelah with the golden price and with an eternal deed for eternal possession. What did the Jebusite do? So apparently they are Hittite, but they were Jebusite. They were descended from Canaanites, and they were holding the fortress of Zion. And Abraham would have promised them that he wouldn't enter the city. So what did the Jebusite do with King David? They fashioned copper idols and set them up in the town square and inscribed Abraham's oath on them. When Israel came to the land, they wanted to enter the city of the Jebusite, but they could not enter because of the covenant established by Abraham. As it says, as for the Jebusite, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out. This is in Joshua 15. When David became king and wanted to enter the city, they would not allow him because of this oath. As it says, they spoke to David, saying, you shall not enter. But Israel was certainly like the sand of the sea, on the opposite, because of the covenant of Abraham's host. And then David acquired the city of Jebusite for Israel with an eternal deed as an eternal possession, because Abraham's oath was not valid. So according to the Midrash, the blind and the lame appeared to David in the form of copper idols that the Jebusite I set up in the town square. And so this, the Midrash exposes Abraham's weakness in his relation with Eretz Israel, that he should not have disposed of it like he wanted, and a weakness that will allow him to make an alliance with the Jebusite, even though he had to defeat them in order to conquer the city. So that was a problem, okay? So now let's go back to the text and see how now we have a very interesting translation from the Targum that you have here, okay? And the king went with his men to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land. So this is in Samuel, okay, he's translating Samuel and Chronicles. And they say unto David, you shall not come in, for the blind and the lame shall cast thee off, which means David shall not come here. Okay. Look now in Samuel, it's translating only Samuel. Look what the Targum is translating with the same verse now. The king went and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusite who lived in the land here. And they say to David, sinners and the guilty, which is the parallel for blind and the lame, David shall not enter here. Then David took the stronghold of Zion. David took the fortification of Zion. So this is the city of David. Then David saying that day, whoever shall smite, sorry, the Jebusite and come to the channel, Bat-Sinor, and this is going to be the main topic later, and shall smite the lame and the blind who are the enemies of David. The Targum says, on that day, let those who kill Jebusites begin to subdue the stronghold, the sinners and the guilty whose David Saul has rejected. So it's not like infirm people, it's something else. Therefore it is say, the sinners and the guilty shall not enter the temple. Oh, so now we're starting to get something different. And then David dwelt in the fortress, he lived and he built and so on, okay? So something becoming more interesting because it says that the lame and the blind are the enemies of David. They are the sinners and the guilty. And there is a similar idea that is found in the Midrash, in Bereshit Rabbah, quoted again by the Radak. Although the deficiency pointed out by the Jebusite concerned the patriarch, they further said that there were two idols on top of the tower called Tzinor. Tzinor is the channel, okay, but Tzinor, recall this Hebrew name. One was blind like Yitzchak and the other lame like Jacob. And in their mouth, the oath that Abraham swore to Avimelech when he made a promise to the Philistine king, a promise not accepted by Hashem. First of all, he made a promise to Ephron, and then later to Avimelech, he made another promise that his descendants will not attack the Philistines. So everything is all together. So the Jebusite, in mocking David and his army, was alluding to the fact that nothing impure or contrary to the divine laws should enter Jerusalem. And the Targum interprets the house as the temple, although the prohibition is mainly about the offering on the altar. It was not concerning the people who would not enter the temple, the lame and the blind, but mainly on the altar, like we can read in Leviticus 21. It's speak unto Aaron, saying, every man of thy seed and thy seed with the blemish shall not come near to offer the food of his God. So every man that has a blemish in his flesh and shall not cure a blind man or a lame man or a man that has a crooked nose or elongated member. All this is about sins. A man with a broken foot or broken hand, archbank or lampy, who has a spot in his eyes, and so shall not come to offer the offerings of the Lord made by fire. He shall not come near to offer the food for his God. But he shall not go to the veil, nor come near the altar, because he has a blemish in his flesh. He shall not profane my sanctuaries, mikdashe. So this is the allusion of Bet Mikdash, the temple, for I am the Lord, I sanctify them. So meaning that the prohibition mainly concerns the sacrifices on the altar, but nevertheless, there is an allusion to the temple because mikdash means also temple. So now, all these give us a little bit of clues, but it doesn't solve the mystery. Moreover, there is another mysterious element that comes into play. It's the famous channel, the Tzinor, the channel by which the city would have been conquered. Okay, so this word appeared twice in the Bible, here in our text, in Psalm 52:7, in reference to the water. One flood calls to another flood at the sound of your waves, tzinorecha. All your waves and all your floods pass over me. So different interpretation have been given for this word. The Septuagint translated as a dagger, a sharp weapon. Here it's talking about water. Sukenik, this is an archaeologic, talking about the accounts of David's capture of Jerusalem, speaks of three-pronged weapon in reference to Onkelos' translation of Exodus 27:3. You shall make for the altar ashtray, shovel, basins, tsinoretea, forks with three, and braziers. You shall make its utensil of brass. And Rashi further explained that the tzinor is in fact the top of the tower, for that is where the idols were placed, idols of Abraham and Yitzhak. So everybody is giving his input, okay? We'll come back onto this later, keep it in mind. We have to talk about the city of David. And the city of David, after the conquest, the name of the city is changed, and now it's going to be called Zion, okay? Which appears for the first time. 2 Samuel 5 tell us, but David took the fortress of Zion. It is the city of David. So let's us recall for the moment the Zohar in EPHRAIM, verse 175. We have learned that when the Holy One, blessed be he, wanted to create the lower world, he made it similar to the upper world. He made Jerusalem the center of the whole earth, and a place called, above it called Zion, which secret is Yesod, the Sphira Yesod, foundation, that gives in Malchut. Jerusalem below is Malchut, Jerusalem up Zion is Yesod. He receives blessing from this place. It is through this place of Zion that the earth began to be built, and it's through it that the world was built. This is what the verse says in Psalm 50. El Elohim Hashem spoke and called the earth from the rising of the sun until its setting. From that place, from Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim has manifested itself. Meaning that Elohim has manifested himself from Zion, which is the level of Yesod, that is pouring into Malchut, Jerusalem. Come and see that Jerusalem, Malchut, was blessed only from Zion, which is Yesod, and that Zion was blessed from above. This is who is the Yesod, represent also Zeir Anpin. Okay, so all is one. The one is connected to the other. From Zeir Anpin and Malchut, the secret of the one over the other are united by Zion. Immediately after the establishment of David's kingdom in Jerusalem, the scripture describes the military victory over the Philistines, the enlargement of the army and the transportation of the Ark of the Covenant from Kiryat Yearim to the city of David, and we will talk about this next class. And the fact that the Philistines arrived in Jerusalem immediately after David took up residence in the city indicates that they were afraid of him, because first of all, they indicate some connection between the Jebusites and the Philistines. Everybody was intermingled, all spiritual, Canaanite, Jebusite, Philistines. In any case, it teaches that they were afraid, and they considered David's arrival in Jerusalem like a threat, as we can see in 2 Samuel 5:17. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they all went up to look for him. And when David heard of it, he went down to the fortress. So at the time of the first excavations, the archaeologist Father Vincent, concluded that the tzinor, okay, we are going back to the tzinor now, the tzinor refers to the water system known as Warren Shaft. I'm going to show you some picture right here, just 1 second. This is Captain Charles Warren, who discovered this shaft here. You see down below there's the spring, and there is this shaft that is 13 meters high. So which allowed the water, according to him, to be drawn from within the city via an aqueduct that brought water from the spring of the Gihon to a reservoir. It is according to this interpretation that Joab managed to climb the channel to enter the walled city. The excavation over the past 5 years at the Gihon Spring have uncovered also a huge tower from the Middle Bronze Age to 1800 BC, sorry, that protected the spring, as well as a tunnel leading from the city to the pool adjacent to the spring, which was also protected by fortification. And I'm going to show you here, if you remember, when we saw this, the picture at the beginning of the pool, for the one who have not visited, here, talking about this here. That was a tower protecting, this is the two walls. You had to go inside the Jebusite, they dug a channel, and in order to go to the spring, you have to go through there and here, okay, which is down below. And then let's go back to the Tzinor, the channel. Okay. So this construction allowed the inhabitants in the city in times of siege to descend, to draw water from the pool and return to the city while remaining protected inside the city. So now let me see how it looks like. Here we are. Okay. So what we have here, this is the Tower of Protection. That was a protected passage going all the way. And then you see that the spring is right here. And from the spring, the Canaanite dug a channel all the way down, going all the way down to the valley and watering the valley. Okay. And then we'll come back to this speaking. And then this is the Gihon Spring. Okay. And then we have here a vertical shaft, that is that one, 13 meters high. And then you have the horizontal tunnel, okay, that led outside, also outside the city. So when he discovered this, he thought that was the Tzinor, the famous Tzinor from which King David conquered the city with Joab. So in summary, we have several elements to continue our investigation. The refusal on the part of the Jebusite, the inhabitants of the city, to let David enter, citing mysterious lame and blind people. The conquest of the fortress of Zion and its transformation to the city of David, associated to Zion, okay, and to Yesod and to Zeirampin. The promise of a prize to the one who will strike the Jebusite, the new construction of the city with the building of the palace of David, that you still have remains today, the immediate attack of the Philistines after the establishment of the Davidic lineage, chapter 5 and 6, the raising, further on we will see this, of the Ark of the Covenant, the bringing of the Ark of the Covenant after the victory, and the fact that we have not yet solved the mystery of the Tzinor, because I'm going to tell you why now. And then the narratives of the book of Chronicles ignores the lame and the blind, the sinners and the guilty, okay? So here, what happened in fact to this? I'm going to explain to you, and we'll come back maybe later on this. In fact, you see that this is a horizontal tunnel. In fact, this tunnel was going all the way, joining inside. This is, okay, we don't see, but it goes inside here. Between this layer of rock and that one, there is 1,000 years difference. Why? Because this is chalk, yes, soft limestone stone that could be dug with stones, using stones, because at the time the Canaanite didn't have any iron. While this layer of stone is hard limestone, and this is only being able to dig with iron. So there is a difference of 1,000 years. So what happened is that the Canaanites, the Jebusite, dug here, went all the way there, while 1,000 years later, at the time of the kingship, they started to dig, and they started to dig and dig. And when they dug with iron, they came across this natural shaft. This is a shaft. This is very natural. and they stopped their digging. They couldn't, so it was not possible that from there the Jebusite would have pulled and draw water from here. Because if you look, this is okay, this is not very big, this is 13 meters. If you pull down, you bring down a bucket, empty bucket, it's okay, it goes all the way down. But if you bring it up full of water, it will go like this, bang, 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 because it's very narrow. And there's no way that for a whole city, only water could be drawn from here, then brought to the pool. And indeed, they found the pool and the channeling, feeding tunnels that fill up the pool. So by the way, I have a video on the city of David that I made, and you can look a little bit around them. So you can find it on the website too. So anyway, so we have all those elements, okay, that's for there. And then we need to talk a bit something else now, the Assyrian siege and the tunnel of King Hezekiah. So now we jump in his story, and the 10 tribes are gone by the Assyrian, and now they're coming to attack King Hezekiah. So destruction of the kingdom of Israel. In 2 Kings 17, we find a detailed account of the destruction of the kingdom of Israel in the 9th year of the reign of Hoshea ben Elah, which correspond to the 6th year of the reign of King Hezekiah. 2 Kings 17 tells us in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elah, reigned over Israel in Samaria. He reigned 9 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, not yet. So I'm not going to read everything, you will be able. Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came against him. He paid him a tribute. Then after he found conspiracy, and then he went through all the land and came against Samaria, besieged it for 3 years. And then in the 9th year of Asa, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria. And he caused them to dwell in Mesopotamia, okay? This happened because the children of Israel sinned against the Lord of Israel, okay? So we have this. Then the northern tribes were sent into exiles by the Assyrians, and they destroy many cities of Judah, and they come to Jerusalem, and we can read in Isaiah 20, in the year that Tartan came to Ashdod, when Sargon, kings of Assyria, sent him, he fought against Ashdod and took it. So there were many cities. The fall of the kingdom of Israel and the conquest of Ashdod was a sign to King Hezekiah that the conquering and devastating power of the Assyrian was heading to Jerusalem, that he had to do something, war preparation to fortify the city. So the capture of Jerusalem in the, well, they came, the siege, it was in fact the siege of Jerusalem in the 14 years of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria. So, you know, there were different kings, Tiglath-Pileser III, Shalmaneser the 5th, Sargon the 2nd, Sennacherib, and Esarhaddon was the last. So only Jerusalem was standing because he took all the 45 cities of Judah. And after conquering the city of Judah, Sennacherib sent a delegation to Jerusalem in 2 Kings 18. And they say, and the king of Assyria sent from Lachish, which was a Judean fortress that he took, to Jerusalem to King Hezekiah, Tartan, Rabsaris, Rabshakeh, with a mighty army. They went up and came to Jerusalem. When they had got up and arrived, they stopped at the aqueduct of the upper pond on the way to the fuller's field.